startling revelation now. French media reports, French media report gives new revelations on the Rafale deal. Claims Middleman received kickbacks. Republic is highlighting the story that the motivated Lutyens media has conveniently blacked out. French media organization Mediapart that has released a set of documents that show how close to 7.5 million euros were paid to a middleman in the UPA era for the Rafale deal. Mediapart has released bogus invoices that allowed Dassault to pay at least £7.5 million to the intermediary Sushant Gupta in Mauritius between 2007 and 2012 to facilitate the sale of Rafale jet fighters to India. The Modi government put an end to possible corruption by signing a government-to-government deal in 2015. Niranjan is with us to break down all the details. Over to you, Niranjan.
Thank you for that, Suesha. Let me go across to Abhishek as well. Abhishek is joining us. For the last few months, there have been several reports, several allegations, and this one story of Rafale has been used conveniently for many years. In fact, for the last 2 and 3 years, ever since the NDA government, in fact, decided to purchase the Rafale jets to bolster our air force and air capabilities. But this report, and in fact, the agency that is closely looking at the Rafale deal, Mediapart, a French news agency, has gone into great detail about bogus invoices, kickbacks running into over 7.5 million euros. It starts at 7.5 million, it could be much higher. But what the story now shows, surprisingly, Suesha, why we are doing this story also is there is no noise about it. Why is there no noise about it? Because the same agency that was putting out details on the Rafale deal and alleged kickbacks in its report has gone into great detail of who was used to route these kickbacks, how much was routed, when it was routed. What we don't know is who it reached eventually. But let me tell you the facts as we know it from Mediapart, which has put out the story, the French news agency. 7.5 million euros in secret commissions were routed as per the Mediapart report, Suesha. And it just begins there, 7.5 million euros. And if you go by today's calculation, 1 million euros is anywhere between 8 and 10 crore, depending on the calculation. In today's day and age, it could range anywhere between 80 to 100 crore rupees. So how was this money routed? Let's tell you about that. There is a common link, a very interesting link. And for the first time, we have some sort of a timeline and details of how this routing of possible alleged kickbacks could have happened. Let me tell you what this French media agency report says. This French media agency report goes on to talk about how this man called Sushant Gupta, interestingly, is a man who's been arrested in the Augusta Westland case, has been under scanner, and going into details of this particular case, kickbacks were allegedly routed through Sushant Gupta. Sushant Gupta was used allegedly by Dassault to try and influence the purchase of jets. Now, what's very important in all of this is the timeline. And the timeline, as per the report in Mediapart, is between the years 2007 and 2012. Who was in power in 2007 and who was in power in 2012? You go by the pure timeline as we know it, the UPA government was in power from 2004 to 2014. So between 2007 and 2012, as per this media agency report, 7.5 million euros were routed using a man called Sushant Gupta, who is already under scanner for the Augusta Westland deal or the Choppergate scandal. And we have covered the Choppergate scandal, for several years in Arnab and team, and we were leading the coverage on that. Sushant Gupta and the same agency that is looking into this entire Rafale case in France has said in its report, and I'm reading out some of the details so that our viewers know about it. This Mediapart report talks about 7.5 million in secret commissions. Kickbacks routed through a man called Sushant Gupta, as per the media agency report, the Mediapart report. Sushant Gupta, according to the Mediapart report, acted as an intermediary for Dassault. This media report says Sushant Gupta received 7.5 million from 2007 to 2012. And this media report says that the money was discreetly sent to Mauritius between the years 2007 to possibly 2012. False invoices were raised to use and route the kickbacks. False invoices were used. And this report also goes on to say that one such invoice that they have got access to, that is Mediapart has got access to, mentions a false name of Dassault Aviation as the name on the invoice. And it goes on to talk about the role of Sushen Gupta in great detail. And Sushen Gupta in this particular case, it says, was picked by Dassault as the middleman in the year 2001. And Sushen Gupta also routed kickbacks in the chopper scam as we know it, the Choppergate scandal, the Augusta Westland scandal. And I think the big headline from this entire report that the French media agency has put out, very interestingly, none of the media houses that were questioning the government when the story was first broken by the media agency are actually talking about the explosive part of it. The Latins media has really blacked out the real story. And the real story here seems to be, according to French media agency Mediapart, that the kickbacks were routed during the UPA era between the years 2007 and 2012, 7.5 million euros. If they were routed via Singapore as per the media agency report, who got the money? And if he's a common link between Augusta Westland and Dassault, was there a common beneficiary as well? These are some of the questions we have. We don't have the answers to them. And the Mediapart report also raises questions about, these invoices being there and yet an investigation not being carried out. Now, if there is evidence against this man called Sushen Gupta, and if he was routing the kickbacks from Dassault to someone in India between the years 2007 and 2012, who was getting the money? And were they getting the money to perhaps swing the Dassault, the Rafale jet deal between the years 2007 and 2012, that is during the UPA era? If it was actually funneled during the UPA era, I think there are many uncomfortable questions that even the Congress party will have to face, because they will obviously have to also look at this aspect of if the money was routed during their regime, if at all it actually reached someone, and whether that part will be investigated. These are some of the questions we have. I just wanted to put the facts out there, and all of these facts that we have just put out are attributed to Mediapart, and Mediapart has put out a very detailed report that we have access to. It's out in the public domain. So that's a very, very uncomfortable question for the UPA regime as well. And if this is the real Rafale scam, does it actually explain, Suesha, that someone else was actually getting the money to swing the deal, but eventually somebody else swung the deal with a clean government-to-government deal? So usually, and Abhishek will be joining us in a few minutes from now, in an aviation deal, in a defense deal, middlemen are often used to try and swing the deal. But in the end, what happened in the Rafale deal is that the government of India directly dealt with the government of France, which means there were actually no middlemen. So imagine a scenario when for several years, kickbacks were being routed to swing the deal, right? For several years. According to Mediapart, from 2007 to 2012, 7.5 million euros were used to swing the deal. So imagine a scenario like that, and 2014, the Modi government comes, right? And what they do is deal directly with the French government, and they win the Rafale deal. So if that is the case, if it's a clean deal between two governments, did that really upset the people or those who may have perhaps got the money? Now, these are some of the questions we have. We can't come to any conclusion, but I think the Mediapart report certainly raises some very, very uncomfortable questions for many people, many politicians, many political parties. We'll leave it at that for now. Let's see where the story goes. Handing it back to you for now, Suesha. Let's move on, and we'll keep getting you reactions as and when we get them.